Hi everybody, this is Tina Catola at the Third Stage Astrology channel. And today, as I'm recording this, that's not when it's going to be posted, but as I'm recording this, it is the day after Valentine's Day. And I drew a couple of cards at random again, and I'm today going to talk about romantic relationships between Sagittariuses and Capricorns in all of the three stages of the signs. Now, some sign combinations you don't find them getting together in certain stage combinations, and we'll generally try to cover all of them. Most of the time when we are in a romantic relationship, we are in a relationship with someone who's at or close to the same stage as we are. There are some exceptions to that. And when the exceptions happen, I call that crossing the affinity barrier, because we have a natural affinity with people who are the same stage as ourselves. And that's actually what's going to determine the most compatibility in a relationship outside of any of the aspects between people's charts. And when you read in regular sun sign astrology books that certain signs get along with each other and not with other signs, that's really basically a load of crap that is just designed to sell books, which is what I've always said about it. But if you have not yet, if you are really interested in the combination of these two signs and you do not know a lot about third stage astrology, you have not listened to or watched the episodes on Sagittarius and Capricorn in their three stages, I would recommend doing that, because that will give you a lot more in-depth information about the different stages. So let's start by talking about what happens when you get a first stage Sagittarius and a first stage Capricorn in a romantic relationship. What you really have is you have the angel behind the throne. That's what that ends up being. And the reason for that is no matter what the gender combination of this sign combination is, you're going to find that the first stage Capricorn people, they're always about achievement and accomplishing things for the benefit of the world. So there are two types of first stage Capricorn people, and one type is born into a high position of wealth or power or prominence and takes on that mantle to use it to try and help the world, to help society. Because Capricorns, the soul sees the way things are structured on the inside and wants to realign things with the way that the laws and the forms they should be taking in order to most serve society. So some are born into that position, and others are not born into that position, and so they will spend a lot of time working their way to get to that position where they can make a difference. So that's the throne. The angel is the first stage Sagittarius. And Sagittarius's purpose is to be the embodiment of natural truth. And when they get to the third stage, they have all kinds of studies behind themselves and all kinds of forms of truths and philosophies and systems that can help people that they use in very spontaneous ways according to need. In first stage Sagittarius, they don't have any kind of experience to back them up. What they do have is they have a natural, pure, innocent trust in the divine, which they might not even acknowledge as such. But all they know is that they trust life, they trust themselves, they trust experience, and because they trust, everything works out beautifully. It only works out beautifully for them, which is what is the sadness for Sagittarians. But while they're in first stage, they're able to keep trusting it, and everything moves very smoothly. So if you think about a couple that is this sign combination, it can be quite interesting and beneficial, because if it's this type of first stage Capricorn that's working their way to the top, that's a high stress situation. They are wanting to keep maintaining their integrity, because it's a sign that until it distorts in second stage, and some of them don't even ever distort, but some will distort in second stage. They have this sense of integrity and the right way to live. So it's tough though, because the rest of the world does not operate under those principles a lot of the time. And when you're trying to accomplish something, there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of people trying to be out to get you. So to have this beautiful, lovely soul as your partner, who is a first stage Sagittarius, who just trusts in life and believes in everything and has a purity within their soul as well, because there's a tremendous, really different types of integrity these two signs have, but it is very compatible in the early or most of first stage. definitely in probably the first 2/3 or 3/4 of first stage Sagittarius. This is going to be a lovely combination, probably for both of them, because the Capricorn is kind of out there interfacing with the struggles of the world. Or if they are the type of Capricorn that is born into wealth in a position of power, that's, it's in their family, it's in their heritage, depending on the culture that they're in, there's an automatic buffer there so that the first stage Sagittarius can continue trusting in life. And there's a bounty, everything's being looked after. Plus, first stage Capricorns are often very consciously spiritual, especially more often the ones who are born into wealth and power. And they can be helpful to the Sagittarian in terms of the Sagittarian becoming more conscious about their own natural spirituality. So this is a lovely, lovely combination in the first section of first stage. What can happen is that as Capricorn gets to the end of first stage, they're starting to really head towards the transition into second stage, which means they're starting to get disillusioned by how little the world actually changes. Because the problem is that we can change the structures of society. We can get into a position where we can change forms in business, change the laws in politics, so that they're much more human friendly, much more beneficial to the world. But as soon as you step out of that position of control, some word I'm not allowed to pronounce comes along and says, I want to do what I want to do for myself. I don't care what happens to other people. I'm going to change the rules so I can get what I want. And there's corruption. Capricorns at the end of first stage reach this point where they realize that no matter what they do, it makes no lasting impact, because the forces of corruption and greed and ego and destruction seem to just come along and mess it all up again. So Capricorn gets frustrated. And what happens to poor Sagittarians is that as they progress through first stage, and actually a Sagittarius with a Capricorn in the earlier parts of first stage, and remember, if you followed what we talk about, we spend several lifetimes in each stage. So you can actually have a couple that have been together very happily for about 2 lifetimes and be in their 3rd lifetime. And now the cracks are starting to show because Capricorn's getting more frustrated. And Capricorn looks at Sagittarius, who's still so happy about everything, because that's a quality first stage Sagittarians have. There is this innate happiness, this innate joyfulness and trust in life, and innate giving, innocent quality. Like Forrest Gump is first stage Sagittarius. And you don't have to, it doesn't matter what your IQ is. You can have a really high IQ and still have that innocent attitude emotionally. And what will happen to poor Sagittarians, all of them, as they continue on through first stage, is that the rest of the world gets irritated with them. And they also start to feel sad because they're happy, but they don't know how to help anyone else be happy. They don't know how to make a difference. So we have a couple at the end of first stage with Sagittarius and Capricorn. They're both on an underlying level frustrated about not being able to make a difference. Capricorn is also irritated at Sagittarius. Why are you so happy all the time? This is the question that poor Sagittarians get from everybody, especially their closest people, and particularly their romantic partner, when they get to the end of first stage. Why I've had to carry all this burden. I'm struggling. This is a terrible world. This is driving me crazy, and you're still smiling. What is wrong with you? And it's, get Sagittarius hears this again and again, and it hurts. And it also hurts to know that there's nothing I can do. I can't do anything to make things better for you. I can't do anything to make things better for all the people that are suffering because you got knocked out of office and now someone's come in and is destroying the world. You're no longer in a position to make a difference, and the difference you made didn't make a difference. So a lot of frustration going on between the two of them, a lot of stress in a relationship. It's very heartbreaking for both of them because they're, especially as often happens, souls will travel together and be together for more than one lifetime. So if this is a situation where these two were doing really beautifully for those first 2 lifetimes at first stage, and now it's heartbreaking that their own relationship is undergoing so much stress. And then I guess the nice thing is this, as first stage Sagittarius will not blame Capricorn, will not say, well, if you didn't have this high stress job, if you didn't have all these highfalutin goals, we wouldn't have this problem, because a lot of other signs would say that. But a true first stage Sagittarian doesn't think of that because they're naturally just going to be open about whatever life is. And then as long as I trust, everything works out, because they're still kind of leading a charmed life because they trust in life. And that when you trust in life in the right way, it is true that life looks after us. But you can't fix it for other people, at least not while you're in first stage Sagittarius. So what will happen is that if these two both go down into second stage, which is the path of least resistance that most souls take, Sagittarius is going to go into second stage feeling very low self-esteem because they didn't help their partner, they couldn't help anybody, and really thinking, well, maybe I've got to find some kind of answer outside of myself. So they stop trusting this inner being, and this inner fount of innocent trust starts to disappear because they're really looking for answers. Capricorns will do one of two things. They will say, okay, the corruption is out there, I can't destroy it, I can't change it, so I'll either join it, I'll join in the corruption, because what's the point? I may as well, if I can't change the world, I may as well just enjoy what it has to offer, because I know how to pull those strings, I've been in that arena. And they'll become corrupt themselves. Or they will say, I don't want a part of this. I don't want to be in any kind of position of authority or power on any level. I'm rebelling against what's wrong with the world. And I always call that the Robin Hood type of second stage Capricorn. It's still a frustrating situation to be in, because really they're a soul who wants to make a difference, who wants to change the world or touch the world in some way. And so they're not particularly happy a lot of the time, but they're hanging on to their values. And so I think my sense is that this type of second stage Capricorn is probably happier than the type of second stage Capricorn, with the big round belly and the business suit and the cigar and, doing all the things that nobody should do, but everybody's doing anyway. So why not? There's an underlying frustration. So if these two do head down into second stage together, the corrupt type of Capricorn is not going to likely find that they'll probably separate out, because second stage Sagittarius is still going to be looking for all kinds of answers, and is still going to be trying to do something and find a philosophy, find a system that will make a change in the world. That the cynical second stage Capricorn goes, why bother? There's no point. So they're going to, if they've actually gone through this transition in the context of one lifetime and they're still together, there's definitely going to be a huge separation here, because the ideals are lost to the Capricorn that says, if you can't beat them, you may as well join them. Whereas the Sagittarian, who before that was very open and wasn't worried about how society's really being run, because I'm just trusting the ride, is now saying, yes, we have to make a change. So they're going to come up with some alternative form of politics that is the answer to everything. And the second stage Capricorn is going to say, you're an idiot, you're crazy, there is no answer to everything. And there's a massive philosophical conflict that's going to split them apart. And if this is something that you are experiencing with a partner, it's not going to really go anywhere. You've got to accept that for now, your souls are separating out. It is time for each of you to find someone else, because your philosophies are so incompatible, and they're going to continue to be that way for quite some time. On the other hand, the Robin Hood type of second stage Capricorn and the idealistic type of second stage Sagittarius can often really stay bonded in second stage, so they can continue their journey together. Their outer life is probably going to be challenging, because what will happen in second stage Sagittarius is that the person is choosing a philosophy or a perspective, and it might be a spiritual path, it might be a philosophical or political ideology, it might be their own very extreme version of these are the things that have to be done in order for the world to be better. But usually there's hardship involved in it, because it tends to go to extremes. Because subconsciously, there is really this attempt to be compensating for all the world's suffering. So we have to find and really extremely inspiring and extremely transformative answer that's going to fix everyone and everything. And I don't care what it takes to live out this answer, to fulfill it. And so things will go to extremes. There may be, there may not be any income because you're living according to a certain philosophy that either rejects money or doesn't generate any income because it's separating out from the herd too much. I wouldn't say too much, but too much for your pocketbook. Let's put it that way. And the second stage Capricorn is saying, well, I don't want any of that stuff anyway because it's all corrupt and it's all bad stuff. So, these two could probably be quite happy living living with nothing, but it's not going to be an easy life nonetheless. And a lot of other people want to understand them. But once again, it would bond them quite a bit. So it's an interesting connection between these two signs as they continue on in that way. Now, what happens as well is that when you get to the end of first stage, there's something that I call the crossroads, which means for everybody, they are given an opportunity to go from first stage to third stage without having to go through second stage. For every sign, the 3 stages have a certain part of the mind or of the psyche or of the being that is dominant. So for all signs in first stage, the conscious mind is the dominant part of the personality. For all signs in second stage, the subconscious mind is the dominant part of the personality. People in second stage are subconsciously reacting to things that had happened to them in first stage, which they don't consciously remember, because unless they're new to second stage in this lifetime, most of the time that they're in second stage, first stage happened in previous lifetimes. Most people don't remember. Third stage, the higher self, the level of spiritual consciousness and spiritual perception is dominant during third stage. So what happens is that when we're at the end of first stage, we have the opportunity to move from being conscious mind dominant to higher self dominant without subconscious patterns pulling us down and making the journey longer and more challenging, even though it deepens us. So there is no right or wrong in terms of which direction a person takes when they're at the crossroads. But older souls often will tend to take the crossroads direction because they're already deep and they don't necessarily need to go through all this extra crazy crap in second stage. Older souls in second stage do go through even more crazy crap than younger souls do because they are so much deeper, more perceptive. They'll just do everything with more color, whatever they're doing, make a bigger mess than other people if they're going to make a mess, which is something not everybody realizes about being an old soul. At any rate, if this couple who are traveling along together reach the crossroads together, they're going to have the opportunity to avoid going into second stage altogether. And so for both of them, and for I guess anyone at the crossroads really, but for both of them, this means really going into their inner being in a much deeper way than they ever have before. Now, Capricorn in first stage has an innate spirituality, especially if they have lived in these protected environments of being born into wealth and power and not had to struggle to make a living. There is this understanding of spiritual principles in a way no other sign has in first stage. So there's an edge there. And Sagittarius doesn't have any kind of conscious understanding of spiritual principles, but while they're living in first stage, they're living in the reality of that force or that consciousness, whether they completely realize it or not. So this is a really positive, powerful combination. If they put their natural, deeper tendencies to work together, they can really stimulate one another to each one has a little piece of the puzzle to give a deeper spiritual understanding to what goes on, so they can help each other move to a higher level. So instead of Capricorn blaming Sagittarius, why are you always so happy when I have to struggle with all this stuff? Capricorn says, you've always had something. You've always trusted, you've always believed in things, and everything has always worked out, and everything has always worked out for you. I think we should explore this more. I'd like to understand what this is in you and what it is that you know. And Sagittarius think, yeah, I'd like to know that too. So Capricorn's ability to look inside themselves and start to understand the structure of reality can wake up if Capricorn turns to Sagittarius' natural trusting capability and kind of borrows it. Sagittarius borrows Capricorn's visionary ability, Sagittarius will start to begin to be consciously understanding of the principles that have made their reality work for these last 3 lifetimes. So the two of them can kind of join forces, head straight to third stage together. And what happens in third stage Capricorn is that third stage Capricorn does make a big difference in the world by sharing their perceptions and by making a lasting difference in individuals, because we can't change society. Society is an empty or false structure. It's not a living thing in and of itself. It's constantly changing according to all kinds of external forces. The only thing that is permanent is the evolution of the individual. So as Capricorns move towards being able to touch and give knowledge to individuals, whether one-on-one or on a collective level, that's when the real changes start happening. So that's the goal for Capricorns to head towards, whether they're in second, third stage, or at this crossroads between first stage and third stage. And Sagittarius has this inner understanding, and when they have structured means to comprehend this inner understanding and to begin to share it with others, which Capricorn can give them structure, because Capricorn they're the whiz kid when it comes to structure of any kind. That's their strength. So they can be a tremendous mentor to Sagittarius to go into third stage. So it's a magical combination, these two, in that regard. So once they are in third stage together, which I guess I will wait for that when I get there, I'll go back into second stage with these two. So when we get towards the end of second stage in both signs, second stage Sagittarius has gone through lots of different systems and philosophies in different lifetimes. They might have had a lifetime where they went into some form of extreme yogic tradition, another lifetime where they became involved with a very idealistic but not very well accepted political party. After a while, some Sagittarians feel like, well, I don't know about getting answers. It's not really working out very well. Maybe I'll just get attention. There's a type of second stage Sagittarius that gives up and does that, because at least people like me. Maybe it means it's okay to be me, and I don't have to do anything else to fix the world after all. But that's kind of frustrating, kind of an empty thing, getting towards the end of second stage. The other thing about all these more extreme philosophies during second stage is it's damaging. Because there are a lot of times when a particular philosophy says, well, the ego has to be destroyed. That's a strong spiritual component of a lot of different traditions that are in their slightly distorted form, because it's not that the ego needs to be destroyed. It's just not supposed to run the show. It's a vehicle for something, but a lot of traditions don't understand that. So if they've been spending a lot of time taking a mallet to their own ego, which is normal for them. They had other people take a mallet to them and tell them, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? So if they're doing it to themselves, at least they're in control of that process. So to knock yourself down, knock down your ego, let's try to get rid of that, is damaging to your psyche. If the mind was the enemy, then we try to knock the mind down, and that's another thing that's damaging to the structure of the mind. We need our conscious mind, and once again, it's not supposed to be in control, but it's supposed to be kept clean and sharp, and as a tool we can draw upon as needed, not as something that's running the show. Another philosophy might be, but logic is the only answer, so we have to go to extremes and push away our emotions. Or sex is bad. We have to become celibate because that's going to give us the spiritual transcendence that we need, that's going to save the entire world. So essentially, second stage Sagittarians often have been really damaging different parts of their being and different parts of their psyche, because they've made it the enemy. They've made it something that has to be sacrificed to a higher philosophy or to a greater good, and they get imbalanced. Not all of them, but a lot of them, by the end of second stage, there's things out of whack because they've just gone too far. So things are going kind of crazy, kind of insane. Capricorn is, if they've been more the Robin Hood type of Capricorn, they're getting really tired. You know, you can only camp out for so many lifetimes before, with that part of you that still wistfully wishes I could be part of things again and actually be in the thick of it and actually something good happen there. And if you've been the corrupt sort of Capricorn, that's getting really old. You can only overindulge your body and punish your body for so long. You can only ignore your conscience for so long. You can only ignore your compassion for so long. You start really hating yourself. There's another type of second stage Capricorn that, again, could have been very compatible with certain types of second stage Sagittarius, which tends to feel bad because they couldn't save the world. And instead of trying to legislate and change the structures of society, they will try to do a lot for lots of people on a small scale. So they're overly altruistic, and they're very self-effacing, and they don't have very good lives because they don't allow themselves to really have much of anything. They're very, very good-hearted, but they're giving themselves away constantly. And that can go, that's another type that can get along with a lot of types of second stage Sagittarians, because again, they're both self-sacrificial and they can both sacrifice together. But even if they're still together by the end of second stage, they're both getting really sick of this whole sacrificial thing. It burns you out very badly. So we have a lot of potential for burnout, health collapse, for Sagittarians, mental collapse at the end of second stage. Now, what can happen when we're getting to the end of second stage, or even in second, third stage, is that the idealistic side of Sagittarius, subconsciously remembering those wonderful lifetimes spent together with their Capricorn partner when things were going well in first stage, and Capricorn remembering it as well, can actually get really attracted to the corrupt form of Capricorn. These two are suddenly absolutely powerfully attracted to one another. Even though their values clash tremendously, they can have this passionate affair, and neither one of them understands what's going on. Why am I so in love with this person who stands for everything that I either disdain, in the case of the cynical Capricorn, or have a tremendous distrust for, really can't possibly respect. I'm shocked and appalled by this person and what they've done with their lives, but I can't keep my hands off them. What's going on? And this type of opposites attract situation can happen between Sagittarians and Capricorns who are also in second, third stage in the early part of it, and are just beginning to learn how to transform themselves. And in fact, this kind of intense, crazy, weird affair of complete opposite types of people can be a catalyst to one or both of these parties to allow them to enter into second, third stage if it happens at the end of second stage. Because the big question is why? Why did this happen? And it's often a very turbulent, on and off again kind of relationship, where they can't forget each other, but they can't stand each other. And it's anything that is really extreme in terms of its emotional impact, and that makes us just go, I don't understand life at all. Why is this happening? Why am I doing this? As soon as we start asking why with a very intense motivation, we're going into second, third stage. So these two can be a marvelous catalyst to one another to get into second, third stage, just like a lot of times this sign combination can be a great catalyst at the end of first stage to crossroad. If they didn't do it then and they went really in opposite directions, they'll clash, but combine in dramatic fashion at the end of second stage in order to wake one or both of them up, because sometimes somebody's not ready to get out of second stage and somebody is. So, often the partner who feels more hurt and more burned is the one who got the gift of consciousness. So if you are, one of these two, and you've suddenly started to wake up and your partner's not waking up, and this could happen to the Capricorn who is very very oh, you gotta do what everybody else does because you gotta get yours, and there's no other way to live life, and very cynical, who got involved with the Sagittarian who's leading this really sort of extremist lifestyle. A lot of late second stage Sagittarians can be addictive and reactive, a lot of extremes of emotion, but they're still going to hold on to values that to a cynical Capricorn are ridiculous. And that person might stay still stuck in second stage, even though they may have a philosophical perspective that you would think might make it easier for them to go into second, third stage. They might not be ready if they're not going to question themselves, if they're not going to heal themselves or let things go. Whereas the Capricorn could be like Scrooge in A Christmas Carol and suddenly wake up and go, oh my God, I see the inner truth of reality. And I know it's not quite what this person was telling me, but if I hadn't met them and if I hadn't gone through the pain of this relationship I can't understand, I would never have had this rebirth. And so they go into this whole other level of experience and move into second, third stage and leave their second stage Sagittarius person to sort it out later for themselves, whether it's later in this lifetime or early in the next. So as we continue on when we have both of them in second, third stage, Sagittarius and Capricorn, again, they can be valuable to one another just the same way that they would have been if they'd managed to do the crossroads together. Because Capricorn is starting to really go within themselves and experience a spontaneous understanding of the true spiritual structure of reality, the true spiritual identity of themselves and other people, the underlying forms of any aspect of existence is really fascinating. They can share their experiences with other people. They can help other people see their own basic template of their true self and their true destiny. And they can help Sagittarians kind of put their pieces together, and they can help them recognize all the gifts they've gained in all the other lifetimes and help them see the core of their value as a being. And this can especially be a gift that a Capricorn can give to a Sagittarius if they were critical of them towards the end of first stage. Now they're going to help them to regain the rest of their self-esteem and recognize their own value. And then Sagittarians have this great big bag of tricks from all the other lifetimes of all the things they studied before. So they go to martial arts and they take to it like a duck to water because they did it before in other lifetimes. They may I think of other examples of different philosophies or systems that they studied in the past will come back to them really fast. And they'll be very useful for them to express things again. And with all their bag of tricks, as they continue to develop and start listening to their inner self, because that's a key again for both of these signs, to get to that strength of wisdom and perception within themselves, then they develop the ability to spontaneously pick out which one of their tools is going to help the person in front of them. So they can help Capricorn with whatever they might need at the time. So there's excitement about the inner life that these two carry together. And again, a real I would say, not compatibility, but there's a way in which each one has the other half of the coin. So they're like puzzle pieces that fit together beautifully because of their I can't think of the word for it, complementary gifts. Their natural complementary talents work so well together. So that by the time they get into third stage, the third stage Sagittarius has this sense of joy in life again, but they also have a real wisdom. They have a calm sense of real, I don't know what the word is for it, a real sense of quiet dignity about themselves, and such a flexibility about what can be shared with the world. And Capricorns have a balanced attitude towards themselves as well. They also have their own sense of the dignity of their own integrity and this infinite spiritual understanding that they have. It gives them such a sense of security they almost have a trusting quality like first stage Sagittarius did. So these two can still enjoy such a deep, wide, broad life together. It's again, it's a really nice combination together when they're into third stage together. So I mentioned earlier on in the beginning that there was the principle of crossing the affinity barrier, where people can get into relationships with people who are not in the same stage as themselves. So let's take a look at what that would look like. So if we look at a first stage Sagittarius with a second stage Robin Hood Capricorn, that can work out kind of nicely. Again, the first stage Sagittarius will tend to trust. The second stage Capricorn, who's the Robin Hood, I'm going to keep my integrity and step outside of society and not participate in the things that I see to be wrong. Sagittarius helps them enjoy that experience, helps them enjoy that process. And Sagittarius could admire elements of this integrity that the second stage Capricorn has. As the first stage Sagittarius is heading towards second stage, they will start thinking, gee, maybe this person has some answers that I could use to help the world with. And if the second stage Capricorn, as the relationship progresses and as both of their experiences of moving forward with their stages of their sign progress, the second stage Capricorn's frustration at, I hate the world and society is corrupt, but I just wish I was actually kind of in the world again and feel left out. That frustration isn't easy to face because the second stage Robin Hood Capricorn does not want to be part of that world at all. They look down on anybody who would ever want to be part of that world at all. They secretly want to be part of that world and all, and they can't face that. So the frustration can be taken out on Sagittarius. So it's interesting because that second stage Capricorn can really set the stage for Sagittarius to go into second stage. And what often happens is we do have people, I don't give them a name, but we can often have people who will pull us down into second stage once we get to the crossroads. Just like we will have, they are people who are in second stage, but we also have people who, everyone has at least one of these people in their lives when they're at the crossroads. They have what I call a gatekeeper, which is a person who, without pushing them in any way, because it's not the way spiritual reality works, they are there and they show them the doorway to go straight to third stage. So the gatekeeper person is a positive influence, a person struggling and lashing out in second stage and pulling at, unintentionally, most of the time unintentionally pulling at the people around them, can pull someone down that path of least resistance into second stage. So an intimate relationship can pull a person down into second stage when they're at the crossroads. Happens a lot. And it's really us making that choice, but it's still, they help weight the seesaw to switch it down in the other direction. So because the Capricorn is both frustrated at Sagittarius, why are you so happy, again, and has this pretty intensive philosophy that they really believe in, and Sagittarian in first stage, subconsciously knowing that second stage is a step ahead of them, has always admired this second stage Capricorn, because first stage Sagittarius know that they know something, but they don't know what they know. The second stage Capricorn is saying, I know something. So the first stage Sagittarius is going, wow, you do? So this sort of extreme ideology the second stage Capricorn has starts rubbing off on the first stage Sagittarius, even as the criticisms knock down the rest of their trust. So that can help to slip them down that slippery slope down into second stage after a while. So that one is not quite so happy, but sometimes the unhappy is a way we gain in the long run from the soul level. In that sense, because we're always learning, we're always growing, there's no mistakes. So that's that particular aspect of crossing the affinity barrier. Now, the other thing that can happen, again, if we're going to stay with the first stage Sagittarius in the combinations, when a person is in second, third stage Capricorn or third stage Capricorn, now we have a perfect gatekeeper. So even as a second stage Capricorn can pull a first stage Sagittarius down, a second, third stage or third stage Capricorn can help them avoid going through second stage. So what is the difference for a first stage Sagittarius who has always trusted in life and is now feeling really confused because they don't feel very good about themselves? Yeah, somehow they've had a good life forever, but they don't seem to amount to much in other people's eyes. They can't seem to help anybody else, and that's really disappointing and makes you feel bad about yourself. Family and people in other relationships have criticized you. And sometimes, a late first stage Sagittarius could leave an abusive relationship because unfortunately Sagittarians are prone to abusive relationships at the end of first stage, and very much many of them in second stage can have abusive relationships. Actually, a Sagittarian that has really gotten beaten down would stay maybe longer with the more corrupt type of second stage Capricorn and really be abused by them, because that type of second stage Capricorn will take out their own self-hatred on a second stage Sagittarius. But just to return back to the crossroading Sagittarian, a second, third stage Capricorn is going to see their value and is going to encourage them and is going to let them know, you are such a special soul. You are an incredible soul. Don't lose this loving nature that you have, that actually many people just adore. Don't lose this natural, spontaneous trust in life that you have. But I'll help you explore where that's coming from and what else you might know that you don't know that you know. So they help them move into third stage. Third stage Capricorn would do the same thing. Really, the only difference is that a second, third stage Capricorn is probably going to be more passionate about it, because a second, third stage person tends to be passionate about getting out of hell. I've been in hell and I've got to get out, and I've got to help anyone else who I can help too. So they're going to be more passionate. And of course, it's easier for a third stage person to be a crossroader because they're not as passionate, and you don't have the same resistance. Because even though gatekeepers know that they're not supposed to try to influence or push the other person's decisions, a second, third stage person often does tend to do that a little bit anyway, and it can backfire. Probably won't backfire as much on a Sagittarian because, again, they're trusting and open. But the third stage Capricorn is a lot more experienced in assisting others with their human evolution than a second, third stage Capricorn is. So second, third stage Capricorn has the enthusiasm, and they're just playing around and discovering, and they're finding the skills. But both of these could be very effective people to help Sagittarius move into third stage, in which case, if it's a second, third stage Capricorn, the Sagittarius will actually leapfrog into third and then help the second, third stage Capricorn get there faster. So one more example of how this sign combination can be so beneficial to each other. It's very, very interesting. Signs that are beside each other can be very spiritually fascinating in a lot of cases when they're in relationships, which is something that most people haven't really talked about, I don't think, in astrology. So let's see, if we move into the second stage Sagittarians. Second stage Sagittarius with a first stage Capricorn can be very interesting, because you're going to find this combination in relationships when they meet through a political setting. So a second stage Capricorn who has these strong political values of here's how things need to change is going to be drawn to that individual in politics who's in first stage Capricorn, who they can see has integrity. And they'll probably try to manage their career a certain amount. So you could see it again. You have a little bit of that passionate quality that would happen with these very different end of second stage Sagittarius and Capricorn combination, because here there's passionate desires both of them have, and a different way of approaching things, and maybe a different philosophical perspective, because a second stage second stage Sagittarius is very much about, here's the philosophy we have to impose on the world to save everything and everyone, but it's often going to be kind of a little outside the norm, so we have to really campaign very intensively to make sure people accept it. Now, some second stage Sagittarians are very much about being very extremely normal. And there are certain laws and rules to society that if everyone followed these rules, everyone would be happy. That's another very strong type of second stage Sagittarius that I know my I guess my senior astrology student has had a lot of experience with, and I haven't had as much experience with that type, so I sometimes tend to forget about it for a little while, but that type is very much in there. So that type of a very conventional second stage Sagittarius, who if we only followed every single rule society has, everything would be fine. We also, again, very drawn to a first stage Capricorn who has the integrity and is in politics trying to make a difference. So they're going to get very passionately involved with what this person's doing. There's going to be conflicts from time to time because the first stage Capricorn knows, well, there's, especially if they worked their way into their position in politics, they know you got to keep your integrity, but you've also got to maintain a kind of centrist perspective if you want people to listen to you. They're never going to compromise their values, but they're not going to go to extremes and alienate people either. So there's a definite pushing and shoving going on here a little bit. They can be tremendously beneficial to one another. So if you have a romantic and sexual and passionate connection, as well as a purpose-oriented connection, this can be a very powerful combination. And they can even get to the point where, because there's so much growth potential between the two of them, it could assist Sagittarius in moving into the transition eventually between second and third stage, while Capricorn moves into the crossroads and goes from first to third stage. So, you know, another situation with a lot of powerful potential. Second, third stage Sagittarius would be, this could be a really beautiful love affair, actually, between first stage Capricorn and second, third stage Sagittarius. They may not be lifelong partners necessarily, although they might be, because the second stage Sagittarius is exploring their inner life and has lots of tools that are of tremendous value. And it's super helpful to that Capricorn who's maintaining their integrity while they're trying to change the structures of society in whatever area they're working on. And yeah, they might end up being partners for good. And it certainly would be an interesting compatible situation. This is more the muse behind the throne as opposed to the angel behind the throne, because the muse has the knowledge, the angel just has the purity. But these two could get along. Sometimes the second, third stage Sagittarius would be sort of frustrated because the Capricorn is confusing. They've got a certain kind of spiritual knowledge, but they don't have the same passionate connection to that process of transformation that the second, third stage Sagittarius has. So sometimes the second, third stage Sagittarius might feel a little bit lonely in their own journey, because that first stage Capricorn is only going so far with it. They're using it to keep their own inner flame alight for the sake of their work, but they're not actually going through this massive transformation that is the joy and the necessity for a second, third stage person. And that's, to me, not a major thing, but it's an issue, I suppose, that would be present. Third stage Sagittarius would not be so concerned about that because they've already got what they needed in terms of their spiritual understanding. So they would be a kind of a muse and angel behind the throne if they're involved with a first stage Capricorn. It could work quite nicely. The third stage Sagittarian would probably have their own personal private practice that out there helping the world in lots of different arenas, not as specifically as the first stage Capricorn, but once again, there is a harmony and a compatibility that would happen there. When Capricorn is in second stage, second, third stage Sagittarius could get, at any point in time, could have a relationship with the corrupt second stage. If you can't beat him, you may as well join him type of Capricorn. It probably would be passionate if they have a certain past connection. It probably wouldn't be very long-lived because this person is completely and utterly stubborn, is a total jerk or an absolute bee if it's female. That's probably how the second, third stage Sagittarius would end up concluding this person is. Yeah, I'm trying to think of something that I was going to say there. Well, yes, there's an element of Sagittarius that because they had so much criticism at the end of first stage, because they've often had abusive partners in second stage, some of them can get really critical themselves of a partner. So finding this person that's everything, that stands for everything I hate, and being very critical of them could be a component of Sagittarius and Capricorn together in second stage. And also a second, third stage Sagittarius would get into that. They'd probably get to the point where they kind of where they look back on it, they would be disappointed in themselves and in their behavior and how far they took it potentially. And that's beneficial, to let those things go and to keep moving forward. They would also be learning the lesson that every second, third stage person needs to learn, and that is that don't go to second stage for your partner. Because we've had 3 or 4 lifetimes in second stage, and we're only about 1 to 4 decades in second, third stage, it's so easy to go to second stage for our partner, because for 3 or 4 lifetimes, that's where we found our partners. That's where we had the natural affinity. So second, third stage people, until they learn not to, they are unconsciously crossing that affinity barrier all the time and dipping into second stage. So a second, third stage Sagittarian gets a really unpleasant, very valuable lesson by getting involved with that corrupt second stage Capricorn, and learning not to go down that path, because a second stage person is very stubborn. They will not listen to what the second, third stage person knows as an obvious truth. To second stage people, that is an obvious lie. They're very incompatible with one another. Their perspectives are completely different. So the second, third stage Sagittarius will get burned by a second stage Capricorn. And as I said, that's a gift, because it's to learn not to go towards second stage people anymore. It's very important that you're involved with somebody who has the same degree of passion for consciousness that you have while you are in second, third stage. Second, third stage Sagittarius with the Robin Hood or self-sacrificing type of second stage Capricorn, that could work for quite a while, especially while the second, third stage Sagittarius is still holding certain really idealistic perspectives. But it's disappointing again for the second, third stage Sagittarian, because those people aren't growing and they aren't changing. So a second stage Capricorn that's self-sacrificing is sacrificing themselves so much that they're always looking after other people. They have no time for their partner, that everything is doom and gloom all the time. And the second, third stage Sagittarius is trying to get away from that. Eventually, they're going to get bored with that second stage Capricorn that can't grow, won't grow, is kind of self-destructive. There's a self-destructive edge to the sacrificing second stage Capricorn. And the idealistic Robin Hood second stage Capricorn, exciting for second, third stage Sagittarius. The second, third stage Sagittarius is exciting for the second stage Capricorn. But again, it's same old after a while. They're not facing up to certain issues. They're not facing their frustrations. Because they're not facing their frustrations, there's certain negative behaviors or addictive behaviors that go along with that. Too much drinking around the fire when you're camped out with your Robin Hood buddies, you're getting to the point where it's a problem. So once again, that one will probably last longer. But unless that person goes into second, third stage and starts questioning every aspect of their lives, because in second, third stage, we're willing to question anything because we want to know the truth. And Sagittarius has always been about the truth anyway. So they are not going to be ultimately that happy, even with the Robin Hood second stage Capricorn. And third stage Sagittarius there's not going to be any attraction to the corrupt second stage Capricorn. There's going to be some understanding for the self-sacrificing type, but there probably won't be any chemistry. Maybe a little bit of chemistry for the Robin Hood type, but it would be short-lived in a gentle way. No one's mad at each other when they part company. But as long as the second stage Capricorn stays in second stage, the third stage Sagittarius doesn't have any reason to be involved in a long-term kind of way. So I believe that sums up all of the combinations. So, if the astrology books say that Sagittarius and Capricorn don't get along, I would disagree. There's a tremendous amount of potential here between these two signs. There are times when they really aren't going to get along, but even then, it's often a really powerful catalyst. So I think that ends this particular episode. And while we still have some space for other episodes, You can put in requests either through the Facebook page or by emailing thirdstageastrology@gmail.com. And I'm pretty sure that is with the number 3 to make your request of the sign combination that you would like us to do next, because I'm doing them just by random order right now, but any requests, I'll do that one next. So thank you very much for watching or listening, and I'll talk to you soon.